Dr. Emily Watson rubbed her eyes as she walked through the corridors of the alien medical facility. The walls around her seemed to pulse with a soft blue light that made everything feel like a dream. She had never imagined that humanity's first contact with aliens would happen because she tripped and cut herself on a piece of their technology. It had been such a stupid accident. The diplomatic team was touring the Zephyrian ship, and Emily was so busy staring at the beautiful crystalline displays that she backed right into one. The sharp edge had sliced her arm pretty badly, and now here she was, bleeding human blood all over an alien medical bay. The Zephyrian healer approached her with movements that looked more like dancing than walking. Its body was tall and thin, made of what looked like living glass that caught the light in amazing ways. Emily had read all the files about their species, but seeing one up close was still incredible. The alien's form shifted and flowed like water made of crystal, and when it moved, tiny lights sparkled inside its transparent body. "Please allow examination of injury," the creature said through the translation device attached to Emily's collar. The voice sounded like someone playing soft music on wine glasses. Emily held out her injured arm, trying not to wince as drops of red blood fell onto the pristine white floor of the medical bay. She watched the alien's reaction carefully, knowing that everything she did here would be reported back to both governments. First contact protocols were clear about being cooperative with alien medical procedures. The healer extended what Emily assumed were its fingers toward her wound. They were long and delicate, almost like icicles, and they glowed with a gentle internal light. But as soon as the alien got close enough to examine her cut, something strange happened. The healer jerked back suddenly, its entire body flashing with colors Emily had never seen before. The lights inside its crystalline form began pulsing rapidly, and the musical quality of its movements became sharp and discordant. "Your life fluid," the alien said, and Emily could hear confusion in the translated voice even though she knew the translation device was supposed to remove emotional content. "The composition is unknown to medical database." Emily looked down at her bleeding arm, then back at the obviously distressed alien. "It's just blood," she said slowly, wondering if there was a translation problem. "Blood, yes," the healer agreed, but its body continued to flash with those strange colors. "But analysis shows metallic content at impossible levels. Your life fluid contains elements that should cause immediate toxicity death." Now Emily was confused too. "Metallic content? What do you mean?" The alien moved to what looked like a medical scanner, its movements quick and nervous. Emily could see data flowing across crystalline displays, but of course she couldn't read any of it. The healer's form grew brighter as it studied whatever information was appearing. "Your blood carries iron at concentrations that would kill any known biological entity," the alien announced, turning back to face her. "How does your species survive with toxic metal flowing through your circulatory system?" Emily stared at the creature for a long moment, trying to process what it was telling her. "Wait," she said finally, "you're telling me that iron in blood is unusual?" "Iron is highly reactive poison," the healer explained, its translator working overtime to convert concepts that clearly didn't exist in their language. "No sapient species uses metallic compounds for oxygen transport. This is basic biological impossibility." "But that's how hemoglobin works," Emily said, her scientific training kicking in. "Iron atoms bind to oxygen molecules and carry them through our bloodstream to our cells. That's just normal human biology." The alien's body went completely still for several seconds. Then it began flashing even brighter, and Emily realized she was witnessing what might be the equivalent of shock or amazement in Zephyrian physiology. "You speak of this metal poisoning as if it is natural function," the healer said. "Please explain how your species developed immunity to iron toxicity." "We didn't develop immunity," Emily replied, getting more confused by the second. "We evolved with iron-based blood. That's just how humans work. What do other species use instead?" The healer gestured to its own transparent body. "Our species uses crystalline matrices that process energy directly from light and electromagnetic fields. The Vorthan use plasma-based carriers in their gaseous forms. The Solani have photosynthetic compounds that barely require circulation. All known life forms use exotic compounds, not simple metals." Emily felt a strange chill run down her spine as she began to understand the implications of what the alien was telling her. "Are you saying that humans are the only species you've met that has metal-based blood?" "You are the only species we have encountered that should not be able to exist," the healer confirmed. "Yet here you stand, with poison flowing through your veins, apparently healthy and unaffected." The two of them looked at each other across the medical bay, one a creature of living crystal and light, the other a being whose very existence challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about biology. Emily touched her injured arm gently, feeling her pulse through her skin, suddenly aware of the iron-rich blood flowing through her body with each heartbeat. "I think," she said quietly, "that humanity just became a lot more interesting to the galactic community." The healer's form pulsed with agreement, and Emily realized that her simple cut had just opened a door to questions that neither species was prepared to answer. Commander James Mitchell stood at the large window of the human ship Explorer, watching as more alien vessels arrived every hour. What had started as a simple diplomatic meeting 3 days ago had turned into the biggest gathering of alien species anyone had ever seen. Ships of all shapes and sizes floated in space around them, each one representing a different civilization that wanted to study the impossible humans. Dr. Emily Watson walked up beside him, carrying a thick data pad that seemed to get heavier each time James saw her with it. Her arm was bandaged from the cut that had started this whole situation, but she looked more excited than worried. "The Galactic Medical Consortium just sent their preliminary report," Emily said, holding up the data pad. "We're officially classified as a biological impossibility that shouldn't exist." James turned away from the window to look at her. "That doesn't sound very encouraging. What exactly does that mean?" Emily activated the holographic display on her data pad, and a three-dimensional image of human blood cells appeared between them. Next to it, other images showed the life fluids of different alien species, each one looking completely different from human blood. "Remember how that Zephyrian healer was shocked about the iron in my blood?" Emily asked. "Well, it turns out that shock was completely justified. Look at this." She pointed to the alien examples. The Zephyrian life fluid looked like tiny crystals floating in liquid light. The Vorthan sample was just colored gas that somehow held together. The Solani fluid looked more like plant sap with tiny green particles floating in it. "Every single sapient species they've ever discovered uses exotic compounds for oxygen transport," Emily explained. "The Zephyrians absorb energy directly through their crystal matrix systems. The Vorthan process gases through electromagnetic fields in their cloud-like bodies. The Solani use advanced photosynthetic compounds that work like super-efficient plant systems. And then there's us," James said, looking at the simple red blood cells on the display. "And then there's us," Emily agreed. "Using plain old iron to carry oxygen around our bodies. According to their models, iron is toxic to life at the concentrations we carry naturally. We shouldn't have been able to evolve past single-cell organisms, let alone develop intelligence and space travel." James watched as more ships appeared in the distance. He counted at least 15 different species represented in the growing fleet. "I'm guessing word has spread beyond just medical researchers. The entire Galactic Science Council wants to study us," Emily confirmed. "They've been sharing data about biological development for thousands of years, and we don't fit any of their established patterns. Some of their scientists think we might be artificial life forms created by some unknown advanced civilization." "Artificial?" James laughed. "They think someone made us. It's the only explanation they can come up with for how we survived our own biology," Emily said. "Iron doesn't just carry oxygen in our blood, James. It's involved in dozens of biological processes that would be impossible for other species. Our immune systems use iron to fight infections. Our muscles need iron to function properly. Our brains require iron for basic neural activity." She changed the display to show a comparison chart between human biology and alien biology. The differences were striking. Where human systems use simple, straightforward chemical processes, the alien examples showed incredibly complex energy-based or exotic compound systems. "They keep asking me how we developed space travel with such primitive biology," Emily continued. "To them, we're like a species that built rockets using stone tools. It doesn't make sense according to their understanding of how civilizations develop." Through the window, James could see a new ship arriving. This one was huge and organic-looking, covered in what appeared to be living plants. "Solani?" he asked. "Probably," Emily nodded. "They're particularly interested in us because their entire biology is based on advanced photosynthesis. They can't understand how we generate energy without direct connection to sunlight or exotic compounds." A communication signal chimed, and James activated the ship's communication system. The face of Captain Sarah Brooks from the Diplomatic Corps appeared on the screen. "Commander Mitchell, we're receiving requests for biological samples from 4 to 7 different species," Captain Brooks reported. "They want everything from blood samples to genetic material to detailed scans of our internal organs." "What's the official response?" James asked. "Earth Command is being very careful," Brooks replied. "We're allowing limited medical examinations, but no invasive procedures and no genetic sampling until we understand more about what we're dealing with." Emily looked thoughtful as she listened to the conversation. James, I think we need to be prepared for the possibility that this changes everything about humanity's place in the galaxy. What do you mean? We came out here expecting to be the new species asking to join an established galactic community, Emily explained. But it's starting to look like we might be something completely different. Something that challenges their basic understanding of how life works. The communication system chimed again, this time with an incoming message from the Zephyrian ship. The crystalline healer who had first examined Emily appeared on the screen, its body still flickering with those strange colors that seemed to indicate excitement or confusion. Human representatives, the alien said through the translator, the Galactic Medical Consortium requests immediate conference to discuss your species' biological status. We have discovered additional impossibilities in your physiology that require urgent investigation. James and Emily looked at each other, both realizing that their simple diplomatic mission had become something much larger and more complicated than anyone had expected. I have a feeling, James said quietly, that our iron blood is going to be the least strange thing about us. Dr. Robert Hayes was examining a strange mineral sample when the alarm started screaming throughout the research station. The sound was unlike anything he had heard before, a mix of electronic warnings and what sounded like alien voices calling out in distress. He dropped the sample and ran toward the main laboratory, where the joint research team had been working together for the past 2 weeks. The project was supposed to be simple, study some unusual cosmic radiation near a dead star system. Humans, Zephyrians, Vorthan, and Solani scientists all working together to understand something new about the universe. But when Robert reached the laboratory, he found chaos instead of scientific cooperation. The Zephyrian researchers were collapsed on the floor, their beautiful crystalline bodies showing ugly cracks like broken glass. The cracks were spreading even as Robert watched, and the soft internal light that usually made them look so elegant was flickering and going dark. Near the gas analysis station, the Vorthan team members were having even worse problems. Their cloud-like bodies were losing shape, becoming thin and scattered instead of the organized forms they usually maintained. One of them was barely visible, just a faint outline of colored gas that kept trying to pull itself together. The Solani scientists were turning brown and withered, their plant-like skin losing the healthy green color that showed their photosynthetic systems were working properly. Their movements were slow and painful, like plants dying from some terrible disease. But the human members of the team were completely fine. Dr. Emily Watson ran up to Robert, her face full of concern but her body showing no signs of whatever was affecting the aliens. Robert, thank God you're here. Something's wrong with the cosmic radiation we're studying. It's getting stronger, and it's doing something terrible to our alien colleagues. Lieutenant Michael Turner, the security chief, jogged over to join them. His face was serious but he looked perfectly healthy. The radiation levels are off the charts, he reported. But somehow it's only affecting the non-human crew members. Our people are reading normal on all biological scans. Robert looked around the laboratory at the suffering aliens, then at the perfectly fine humans. What kind of radiation are we dealing with? Some type of exotic energy that breaks down complex biological systems, Emily explained, pulling up readings on her scanner. It's like it was designed to target advanced biological processes and leave simple ones alone. A Zephyrian scientist nearby made a weak sound through their translator. Help, matrix systems, failing. The voice was barely audible, and more cracks appeared in their crystalline form even as they spoke. We need to evacuate everyone immediately, Michael said. But there's a problem. The alien ships use bioneural networks for their control systems. Those networks are breaking down too. Their ships can't fly in this radiation. Robert felt his stomach drop as he understood what Michael was telling them. You mean they're trapped here? Unless we do something fast, yes, Michael confirmed. And the radiation is getting stronger every minute. Emily was scanning one of the unconscious Vorthan researchers with her medical equipment. Their electromagnetic biology is completely scrambled, she reported. It's like the radiation is specifically designed to disrupt complex energy-based life forms. What about the Solani? Robert asked, looking at the brown, withering plant people. Their photosynthetic systems are shutting down, Emily said grimly. The radiation is breaking apart the molecular chains they use to process sunlight into energy. Robert looked around at his human colleagues, all healthy, all functioning normally in radiation that was killing their alien friends. Why aren't we affected? Our biology is too simple, Emily realized. Iron-based blood, carbon chemistry, basic cellular processes, we're not advanced enough for the radiation to target. The implications hit Robert immediately. For weeks, the aliens had been studying humans like they were some kind of primitive curiosity. The creatures with the impossible metal-based blood who somehow achieved space travel despite their simple biology. But now those same simple systems were keeping them alive while the galaxy's most advanced civilizations collapsed around them. Change of plans, Robert announced to the human team members scattered throughout the laboratory. We're not evacuating. We're taking charge. Over the next several hours, the humans found themselves leading a rescue mission they had never trained for. Emily took control of the scientific equipment, her simple human biology allowing her to work in radiation levels that would kill any other known species within minutes. She managed to modify the station's shields to provide some protection for the aliens, buying them precious time. Michael organized the human security team into rescue squads. They carried unconscious aliens to the shielded areas, working in conditions that would have been instantly fatal to their patients. The irony wasn't lost on him. The species everyone thought was too primitive for serious scientific work was now the only one capable of functioning in a serious emergency. Dr. Thomas Clark, the team's engineer, figured out how to manually control the alien ships whose bioneural systems had failed. His basic human understanding of mechanical systems worked where advanced biological technology had broken down. When the radiation storm finally passed 12 hours later, the survivors looked at their human rescuers with something that went beyond gratitude. It was the look of beings whose entire understanding of the universe had just been challenged. The Zephyrian healer who had first discovered the strangeness of human blood managed to speak through a damaged translator. "You saved us all," they said weakly. "The primitive metal blood saved the advanced civilizations." Robert looked around at his human teammates, all tired but healthy, all having worked for hours in conditions that the galaxy's most sophisticated species couldn't survive for minutes. "Maybe," he said quietly, "simple isn't the same thing as primitive." Dr. Thomas Clark stood in front of the largest gathering of alien scientists he had ever seen. The Great Council chamber on the Zephyrian homeworld was filled with representatives from 43 different species, all here to learn about the mysterious humans who had saved them from the radiation storm. Behind Thomas, a massive holographic display showed the inside of a human body, with different systems lighting up in various colors. He had spent weeks preparing for this presentation, but he still felt nervous talking to so many advanced civilizations about something as basic as human biology. 3 months ago, your medical teams discovered iron in our blood and called it impossible," Thomas began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "Today, I'm here to show you that iron was just the beginning." He activated the display, and the hologram zoomed in to show human blood cells in detail. "You've all been focused on the iron in our hemoglobin, but humans don't just carry one metal in our bodies. We're walking metal factories." A murmur went through the assembled aliens as the display highlighted different parts of the human body. Thomas could see confusion and amazement on the faces of species that had thought they understood biological systems. "Zinc," Thomas said, pointing to areas of the body lighting up in blue. "We use it for immune system function and wound healing. When a human gets injured, zinc helps repair the damage. When we fight infections, zinc helps our immune cells work properly." The Solani representative, their plant-like body still showing signs of damage from the radiation storm, raised a thin arm. "Zinc is toxic to our photosynthetic systems," they said through their translator. "How do you avoid metal poisoning?" "We don't avoid it," Thomas replied. "We depend on it. Copper for enzyme activity and energy production. Calcium and magnesium for bone structure and muscle function. Selenium, chromium, manganese, we have dozens of metals working inside our bodies every day." The hologram showed each metal as Thomas named it, highlighting the biological systems they supported. The alien audience watched in growing amazement as the display revealed the complex network of metallic processes that kept humans alive. A Vorthan representative, their gaseous form still weak from their recent ordeal, spoke up. "Our energy-based biology cannot process any metallic compounds. Contact with such elements causes system failures. How does your species achieve biological stability with such dangerous materials?" Thomas smiled, remembering his own surprise when he first learned how unique human biology was. "We don't just tolerate metals, we evolved with them. Our entire biological system is built around incorporating and using elements that most species consider toxic." The proof of his words came 2 weeks later. Captain David Brooks led his rescue team through the collapsed tunnels of Kepler Mining Station, where an accident had released metallic compounds into the air at concentrations that would kill most known life forms. The atmosphere was so saturated with metal particles that it looked like a shimmering fog. "Rescue team to base," David reported through his communicator. We're at the first trapped group. Atmosphere readings show iron, copper, and zinc at levels 50 times what most species can survive. His team moved easily through the dangerous tunnels, their breathing apparatus more for comfort than survival. The metallic atmosphere that would cause immediate organ failure in aliens was just uncomfortable air to humans. Base to rescue team, came the reply. Zephyrian Medical says those metal levels would cause crystalline matrix collapse in under 30 seconds. Vorthan analysis confirms electromagnetic disruption would be instant. How are you functioning? David looked around at his team members, all working normally in an environment that was basically poison to every other known species. Same way we always do, he replied. This is just Tuesday for humans. Over the next 6 hours, David's team pulled 4 to 7 miners from the collapsed tunnels. 38 different species, all unconscious from metal poisoning, all carried to safety by humans who walked through the toxic environment like it was just another day at work. When the rescue was complete, the alien medical teams could barely believe what they were seeing. Species after species of miners, all saved by humans who had worked for hours in conditions that would have killed their patients in minutes. Dr. Emily Watson, now serving as humanity's chief biological consultant, examined the rescued aliens with equipment designed for multiple species. The Vorthans suffered electromagnetic disruption from metal interference, she reported. The Zephyrians show crystal fractures from metallic contamination. The Solani have photosynthetic shutdown from metal toxicity. And the human rescue team? Asked the Zephyrian medical coordinator. Completely unaffected, Emily replied. Blood tests show they actually absorbed some of the excess metals and incorporated them into their biological processes. Their bodies treated the toxic environment like a mineral supplement. The implications spread through the galactic community like wildfire. Humans weren't just unusual because they had metal-based blood. They were the only known species that could thrive in the metal-rich environments that filled the universe. Mining operations that had been abandoned because they were too dangerous for alien workers were suddenly possible again with human crews. Space stations that had failed due to metallic contamination could be reclaimed. Entire sectors of the galaxy that had been considered uninhabitable were now accessible. Thomas stood in the council chamber again a month later, looking out at the same group of alien representatives. But this time their expressions were different. Instead of scientific curiosity about a biological oddity, he saw something that looked like respect, and maybe even a little envy. We always thought of humans as primitive because of your simple metal-based biology, the lead Zephyrian scientist admitted. Now we understand that you are not primitive at all. You are perfectly adapted for a universe that the rest of us can only visit with heavy protection. Thomas nodded, thinking about all the human crews now working in places where no other species could survive. Sometimes, he said, the simplest solution is the best solution. Admiral Lisa Thompson was drinking her morning coffee when every alarm on the bridge of the Humanities Dawn started screaming at once. She quickly put down her cup and looked at the main display screen, expecting to see some kind of mechanical problem with their ship. Instead, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Across the entire sector of space, strange metal platforms were rising from what everyone had thought was empty darkness. Each platform was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that looked like they had been built by a civilization far more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Report. Lisa shouted over the noise of the alarms. Lieutenant Kevin Walsh was frantically working at his sensor station, his face pale with shock. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from unknown automated defense systems. They just appeared out of nowhere and they're firing on everything in range. Lisa watched the main screen as ships from dozens of different species tried to escape the sudden attack. Zephyrian vessels, their beautiful crystal hulls, were shattering under beams of targeted energy that seemed designed specifically to break apart their unique biology. Vorthan ships were losing cohesion as electromagnetic weapons disrupted their gaseous crews. Even the mighty Solani bioships were withering under radiation that destroyed their photosynthetic systems. What about us? Lisa asked, noticing that their own ship was completely unaffected by the chaos around them. That's the strange part, Kevin replied, checking his readings again. The weapons aren't targeting human ships at all. We're flying right through their attack patterns and they're ignoring us completely. Dr. Emily Watson hurried onto the bridge, still carrying research equipment from her laboratory. As humanity's chief expert on alien biology, she had become essential to understanding situations like this. I've been analyzing the attack patterns, Emily announced breathlessly. These weapons are specifically designed to target advanced biological systems. They are using resonance frequencies to shatter crystalline life forms, electromagnetic pulses to disrupt energy-based biology, and radiation designed to destroy photosynthetic processes. Lisa felt a chill as she understood what Emily was telling her. And they're not targeting us because we register as primitive metal-based life, Emily finished. To these ancient weapons, we're not advanced enough to be considered a threat. The communication system came alive with desperate calls for help from ships across the sector. Species that had considered humans to be barely evolved creatures were now begging for assistance from the only ships that could move freely through the deadly weapons field. All human vessels, this is Zephyrian Command Ship Crystal Light, came a weak transmission from the flagship of their former hosts. Our hull integrity is failing. We cannot survive much longer under this attack. Lisa looked at the tactical display showing the positions of all ships in the sector. Hundreds of vessels from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations were trapped and dying, while human ships moved untouched through the ancient defense network. All ships, this is Admiral Thompson, Lisa announced on the emergency frequency that reached every species in the sector. Human forces are moving to assist. All non-human vessels retreat to maximum safe distance immediately. What followed was the largest rescue operation in the history of galactic civilization. Captain David Brooks led engineering teams to the massive weapon platforms, finding that their metal-based circuitry was compatible with human bioelectric systems in ways that alien technology could never match. Where Zephyrian energy-based tools failed and Vorthan electromagnetic interfaces were blocked, human hands could directly manipulate the ancient controls. Dr. Robert Hayes worked with teams of human technicians to understand the weapon system's programming. The ancient builders had used metal-based computing systems that human brains could interface with naturally, while alien neural patterns were too complex and exotic for the simple machines to recognize. It's like the whole system was built by a species that thought like humans, Robert reported as his team disabled another weapon platform. Simple, direct, metal-based technology that works exactly the way our minds expect it to work. Lieutenant Michael Turner commanded the rescue operations, coordinating human ships as they moved through the weapons field to retrieve damaged alien vessels. His crews worked in conditions that would have killed any other species, carrying unconscious aliens to safety while their own ships remained completely ignored by the ancient defenses. For 3 days, humans worked around the clock to save their alien allies. They disabled hundreds of weapon platforms, rescued thousands of crew members, and proved beyond any doubt that sometimes the most primitive solution was also the most effective one. When the last weapon platform finally went dark, the sector fell completely silent. Then, slowly, messages began coming in from every species, every world, every station that had been saved by the humans they had once considered too simple for serious consideration. Admiral Thompson stood in the observation deck of her ship, watching as vessels from across the galaxy formed an honor formation around the human fleet. Beside her, Emily Watson looked out at the stars with a satisfied smile. They finally understand, don't they? Emily said quietly. We're not some primitive species that got lucky and developed space travel despite our simple biology. Lisa nodded, watching as more ships joined the tribute formation. We're something else entirely. The only species naturally built to thrive in the metal-rich universe that everyone else is afraid of. Through the great windows, the stars gleamed like points of iron against the darkness of space, and humanity took its place not as the junior members of galactic civilization, but as the guardians of a universe that had been waiting for them to arrive all along. The galaxy had learned that iron will and iron blood were not signs of primitive development, but the perfect tools for survival among the stars.